He took off. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you did it? Classic situation?
Well, all I know is Buck fished Hess Lake a long time ago, and watching the videos, we knew he caught some great big bass. So we always wanted to fish it. So we got the opportunity. So we went up there, and the watercolor is real dark. It's dark yellow green. And we went out. And we looked at the break lines and stuff, and seen what was there in the deep water, and found the holes. And we started trolling the break lines. We hamalized what we did. We skipped the shallows. We started fishing an 11-foot break line.
You were beyond the weed line then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The weed line was about 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet.
Oh.
So we went out and we trolled the 11-foot break line just to get the feel, the shape of the hole. And
what kind of break line was 11-foot break line?
1 foot. It broke from 11 to 12 foot. 1 foot. And shortly after that, not far out from that, it got very, very soft. Your lure would get down in it and you couldn't keep it down. You know, you just touch and it'd be right up. So it was pretty lousy bottom outside that. And most of the holes were like that, very soft. But there was, as we trolled around and found the shape of them, about the second little feature we came out on, we caught a fish. So we threw a marker and made another pass in the opposite direction and caught another fish and threw a marker. Now we got 2 markers out. So we decided through some conversation with Frank last night to keep on trolling to see what happens. And we made 8 passes in a row and we caught 8 fish. And we made a couple more passes and nothing. So I said, let's anchor. Now let's see what happens. So we had them pinpointed because we had the 2 markers out. So we anchored right in between the 2 markers. You couldn't anchor parallel with the markers because inside that break line where it broke at 11 feet, when it did come up to 10 foot, it was a long, long flat. So I wasn't sure whether or not we could anchor and walk the bottom. So we couldn't anchor parallel with the markers. So we had to anchor far enough back where we could get 10 foot underneath the boat. So we anchored dead center in the middle of the markers, back a little ways. And we first cast, we caught a fish. And we caught 5 more casting, and 4 of them were smaller. We had one about 4 pounds. And then it kind of quit, so I said, let's go back to the troll and see what happens. We went back to the troll and we caught the rest of them. We ended up catching 16 fish, kept 9 and threw the rest back. Fun.
Did you increase your speed when you went back?
Yes, we did, but it did not seem to work. Definitely increased the speed, fast.
This lake has 2 or 3 deep holes in it, or not?
We found 3 holes, 1 was 25 foot. The other one, I didn't look at the maximum depth, and the other one was 13 foot.
Where were these fish in location to the deepest hole, closest to it? Or?
They were in relationship to the deepest water in the lake. But outside, the distance between where we caught them and the deepest water in the lake was quite a distance. There was another break line out there approximately 15 feet, which dropped off fairly fast in proportion to the distance between where we hit them and the 15-foot depth. From 15 foot it went down pretty quick, but all of it was soft. I mean, very, very soft. We made a long, long cast, and with the long cast, from where we was anchored, we could reach this soft bottom, and you couldn't walk it. So if you made too long a cast, you was in the sill already. So where we caught them was hard and clean, very hard and clean. Everything outside that you got past on either side of the point, it got soft again. Kind of difficult to control.
How big an area was that hard area?
The bar was not a narrow ridge-like bar. It was very rounded, and the face of it was about 40, 50 feet across from one corner of where it went around to the other corner.
Is it adjacent to a slough or a cutback where the fish would have been spawning?
No.
Where would those fish have spawned?
Go a long way.
They would have to go along. Did you catch any fish yet? Off of that spot?
But this small.
How big?
About 2 inches.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Is it hard?
It's hard. And everything around it's soft.
What it is, it's the hole is here. Where we caught him was here. There's another hole adjacent, just past it. The two holes come fairly close together. But as far as shallow water around them, it's in the middle of the lake. It's dead center in the middle of the lake.
Sure enough.
It's
Did you find two
long
hangs? Did you find two
hangs.
Yeah. Did you find a hang at all?
No.
I found 2 hangs.
Well, usually if the fish are moving, you don't find the hangs till it's over.
Yeah.
Seriously,
I picked up an anchor rope.
Okay. No, we did not. We did not find any hangs on that spot. There was another spot adjacent to it, which looked like it had more potential than the spot we caught him at. Broke off quicker, and it looked to me like the soft bottom began at a deeper depth. So it looked like you could go down about 15 feet before it got soft. This spot here, below 12, 13 feet, soft. I mean, real soft. Crappy.
Was there a saddle? Was there a saddle between the two holes?
Yes, but the distance was still quite a ways.
How far?
First 50 yards or 60 yards?
At least I would say. In the saddle, the shallowest part in the saddle area was probably 7 feet.
Found that too.
Did you notice how far 10 went? 10 foot out of the hole, come up to 10 foot, and it just went forever. Now,
Would they have not spawned there?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so with that watercolor, because maybe it might not have the light. I wouldn't think so.
Those fish looked like they had spawned about probably 3-4 weeks ago, and they were just about healed back up, which means they're getting ready to drop off in deep water. From what direction, where you caught them, where would the spawn area be?
You'd have to be up on that 7 foot.
Like I said, it's in the middle of the lake. If they followed that break line towards the other good spot I told you, that would lead them to the shoreline, which is
That's probably been the closest.
probably the closest thing.
North Shore. North Shore.
What would you say, Chuck?
That would have probably been the closest direction to go past the next spot
Yeah,
and
that's
into the
what I-
shoreline. Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
But we already had our fun, and we already had a boatload full of fish, and
Yeah.
we wanted to come back, so we quit. We done what we went there for. But that's why we didn't go any further checking the lake out. We fished another hole, was 13 feet deep, but it was so soft. I mean, real soft. And we just got aggravated and quit.
Sure.
But that's neat. Buck did it back then. We just wondered whether they were still there. They're still there.
Draw him a picture or draw a picture. At least I ask him where he caught his. He'll draw you a
I
picture.
wondered that myself.
See if it isn't similar to same or the same place.
If a spot like that comes up and then the top of this bar is there, and then it goes at the same depth, let's say 10 feet like this one, for a long ways, does that lead all the way to the shallow?
Well, the shells.
It must, because there was fish there. But
Fish aren't lost.
no,
I mean, fishermen are. I
No,
mean, they always can find something to lead them to the shallow. It's like in the lake down in Florida. It may be from where you're catching fish. It may be 2.5 miles to the shoreline, and you think it's sand, but somehow those fish make it to the shoreline, so they obviously know where they are. And they got something to lead them.
Do they have to?
That
kind of lake
15
is
foot
it?
break line looks so good.
what?
That 15 foot was
Yeah.
That hole looks so good.
I know.
You can't touch it.
Did you try and troll it?
I tried it. It's soft.
What
Of the
caused this
cups.
bar?
What caused this bar?
Why is the bar there? What would have caused that bar to be there? I mean, generally something forms
It's a
the
glacier
bar.
lake.
It's a glacier lake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was the bar hard?
It's hard.
Two spots were hard that we found, and both of them were bars. Everything else was soft. Everything else was soft.
Was the saddle hard?
Don't know. Never went that far. I think it was. My depth under, I got a real narrow blip. I mean, you could just see it. Helen Keller could see it. It went down and at 11 feet, it had a 1 foot break from 11 to 12, and about 12 and a half feet, your blip went from narrow to wide.
Goo.
Goo. I mean, goo. I made a cast with a 700 to get out farther, because I couldn't, so I could reach farther, and there was no way. I brought it in, I had black stuff that far up my line. Bad. So I would
That's
say
a Florida
it's,
lake.
pardon me?
What?
That's a Florida lake.
Yeah.
I
You
would
didn't
say
have those
it'd be-
little red worms in it.
I don't know. It'd be difficult to catch the fish. You'd have to have perfect.
the red one.
You'd have to
Yeah,
have
really?
I looked one night. I didn't see any.
Good lure.
I'm sure it had.
line length and lure
They're all
size to just barely skip them up to fish the deeper stuff. You may have to wait them out.
Denny did.
Well, I mean, my God. I mean, what do you expect to float down the water? You'll have to learn like later.
That's right. I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
Good fish ain't getting
I hope the Grand Rapids boys don't clean it out before I get back. But it just tickled me, you know. It's so many years ago that Buck caught these fish, and nothing's changed.
He told Danny, we got a guy in our club, Danny Moon. Danny been catching fish up around Kingston, Tennessee. He was so proud of it. Mr. Perry told him, well, I was catching fish there in 1952, 1953, and told him where the places was, and Danny's mouth was going. I think what you probably found out, you probably found the fish in the same place.
Very possible. The other spot looked better, but they both got possibilities.
That's where you left the 14 pounders.
Yeah.
He gets the 14.
One of the fellas said that there
That'd
was
probably be
northerns in there.
Yeah.
No, we didn't catch it.
There might be more northerns now that some of the fish have been eliminated, been eating their babies.
It was fun.
I've heard there are northerns in that. Yeah.
Somebody said they fished it and all they caught was little northerns. But the whole key is watercolor.
Mhm.
Watercolor. If there's anything you can do to make your fishing better, that's it. That's it.
How come you didn't fish the other spot?
I did.
We did.
Yeah. I
Caught
did.
the fish on the other spot.
Well, even after we got done with the other spot, we went over and fished the spot that looked good. We trolled through it to get the shape of the hole. First thing, I want to know the shape of the hole so I know where to concentrate my efforts. And that's all we was doing when we caught the fish. You know, when the fish started going, then we just went about what you're supposed to do the rest of the way. When we got done, we didn't feel like checking out the whole rest of the lake.
Don't have
Get
to.
back real quick.
Yeah.
Need something for
Yeah.
somebody else
Want
to
to
do.
get back before Frank left.
When Chuck gets hungry, it's time to go.
He done that again.
Getting close to a hole.
You bet. A direct relationship to a hole.
Will they have a way from where they were to go around that bar to hit to the hole? I mean, if you were to really look close, would they have had, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, would it have been easier for them to go to the shallower hole or to the deeper hole, or would there be a path leading to the deeper hole?
I would say the deeper hole, without a doubt, is where they live mostly.
But yet it was further with the fish and where the,
It's a pretty good distance away from the fish.
So two separate holes out, or could it have been kidney shaped? And the point that you fish was deep hole on this side, shallower hole on that. So they could run around the back side, whatever.
I thought maybe the hole that was in direct opposite of it might have some features existing exactly like this. So that was the next thing that we checked into this hole. But it was real soft, terrible. It was not the same.
big real,
I will come back, and I think I'll be back in a couple weeks.
I bet you will.
I will. I'll be back. It'll be during the week too.
It's a heck of stringer fish.
It's nice. It's nice when it happens for real.
The right way.
It's happened before, quite a few times to us before, but, well, 2 days ago, we got into a stringer of smallmouth on Mona. You know that. We didn't have a whole lot to show for it, but we
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit different. Largemouth, when you hook them, they just kind of pull and jump a little bit, but smallmouth are crazy. Crazy.
They'll do anything.
It's crazy. When your partner's yelling at you, where is it? When your partner's yelling at you for messing up, and there ain't nothing you can do about it, you know it's not you. I mean, they're crazy.